You're listening to a song on the radio and tacitly considering the song's form as it progresses. After you hear the first chorus as expected, you suddenly encounter another section that sounds like a second chorus, but one that feels distinctive from the first chorus. On the next cycle through the form, you attend to both choruses. They seem significant enough that either could be the real chorus, but they differ slightly in energy and content.
I didn't come here to party. I didn't come here to stay. I came to leave with somebody. I only came for the
These two sections differ enough that we cannot simply understand the second chorus as a repeat of the first. Instead, it's a fully formed second chorus, a dance chorus. A dance chorus is a common formal device in top 40 music that results from techniques of electronic dance music, that is, EDM, mixed with features of typical contemporary pop composition. The dance chorus is a modified verse-chorus form that results in a hybridization of EDM and pop compositional techniques. Following a verse and chorus, a dance chorus is a separate section that is intensified but harmonically consistent with the previous chorus. The dance chorus contains the hook of the song and uses a timbre specific to this section, as we just heard in the song Cake. The lyrics of this dance chorus are often simplified from the preceding chorus, but are most often continuous, not a single word scattered throughout the section. The dance chorus differs in formal function than the preceding chorus, though the two choruses are equally important. A traditional pop chorus encourages the audience to sing along. In contrast, the abbreviated lyrics and timbres associated with the dance chorus promote movement and dance from listeners. How did the section of the dance chorus evolve from more traditional EDM composition and production? In his comprehensive account of the history and culture of EDM, scholar Mark Butler provides the conception of the potential form of an EDM composition, suggested from his interview with EDM producer and performer Stan Lee. As this diagram suggests, songs in this style are often framed by an intro and outro. The initial build-up leads to a core, a repeated and more significant part of the song. The core is then suddenly cut in the breakdown, and then rises slowly through a second build-up to an even stronger presentation of core material, as shown with the addition of a darker box onto the second core. This second core is sometimes called a drop, an important term that we'll discuss in a bit. I use Butler's work here because of the shifting trends in popular music that have shown frequent collaboration between EDM producers and pop artists. It is this collaboration that warrants the comparison and highlights the necessity for new analytical tools, such as the dance chorus. The similarities of such a layout to typical verse-chorus form are clear. The first intro and build-up become verse material, the lowest intensity and least memorable part of the song. Following this, the core becomes the first chorus. If we stopped here and returned to the verse, we'd have a more traditional verse-chorus form. The unique aspect of this form is the breakdown and second build-up, which leads to a more intensified second core. That is what I refer to as the dance chorus. Earlier, I referred to the second core as a drop section. This term arises from EDM, when a riser builds in pitch and rhythmic intensity in anticipation of the climactic arrival of the drop. In the spectrogram, you see the increasing intensity of the drums as the riser builds towards a blank, dark space. The drums loudly re-enter at the original pace, while the yellow bands highlight the booming bass line.
When life hits you hard like a train wreck, don't you believe it'll break down? I'ma be there, I'ma be
One recent influence of risers and drops in top 40 music is the so-called pop drop, defined as an instrumental interlude preceded by a pre-chorus that takes the place of a chorus. The word drop here honors the influence of EDM and its gestures borrowed and implemented into pop composition. Though they appear similar on the surface, a pop drop is not the same as a dance chorus. A pop drop most often lacks a full traditional chorus that precedes it, and thus it replaces the chorus with drop-like material. A dance chorus is an additional module that follows a fully developed chorus and recycles aspects of that chorus, like continuous vocals, but adds and amplifies material for dance and movement. If the dance chorus, then, is defined by its placement after a typical chorus, it might be considered a post-chorus, as it has long been common to adjoin modules before, like a pre-chorus, or after the chorus in pop music. For example, some scholars define the term post-chorus as a formal unit that directly follows the chorus, reiterating its memorable groove while transitioning into the next verse. As Asaf Perez defines it, a dance post-chorus is an EDM-influenced climactic section that follows an in-chorus build-up, where the vocals are replaced by a high-energy synth riff or dubstep-style breakdown. I argue, however, that there are good reasons for regarding the dance chorus as a full-fledged section in its own right, on the same level of importance as the first chorus. That is, it's not merely a transition between chorus and verse, or a mostly textless instrumental break, or the continuation of the first chorus. While a dance post-chorus, and what I call the dance chorus, are both influenced by riser and drop gestures, the dance chorus's lyrics and vocals impress a chorus-like quality and increase the significance and memorability of the section. For an example of this form, let's listen to Stay the Night, a 2012 collaboration between DJ Zed and Hayley Williams. As you're watching, pay attention to the body language of Hayley Williams and the characters in the video, as their gestures mirror the changing intensity and functions of each formal unit.
I know that we are upside down, so hold your tongue and hear me out. I know that we were made to break, so what? I don't mind. You cue the lights, I'll draw the blinds. Don't dull the sparkle in your eyes. I know that we were made to break, so what? I don't mind. Are you gonna stay the night? Are you gonna stay the night? Oh, 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 oh. Are you gonna stay the night? Are you gonna stay the night? Doesn't mean we're bound for life. So, oh, oh, oh. Are you gonna stay the night? Are you gonna stay the night? Doesn't mean we're bound for life. So, oh, oh, are you gonna stay the night?
Designed to mirror Butler's form chart we saw earlier, here is a form diagram of Stay the Night. In the chart, the x-axis shows time unfolding, and the y-axis shows the memorability and significance of each section. As we just heard, there's nothing post about the dance chorus. The confluence of an EDM drop and a vocal chorus here is the climax of the song, both orally and physically. Using the term post-chorus would imply that this section is subordinate to the previous chorus and build-up. When Williams re-enters and sings abbreviated chorus lyrics, however, the section transforms from what could be a textless drop into a full dance chorus. Unlike a post-chorus, the dance chorus does little to transition to the second verse. Furthermore, the dance chorus is stable and similar to the previous chorus, unlike many post-choruses, which are often contrasting and short. Naturally, songs that feature dance choruses are not only to be enjoyed in the studio or through headphones. Rather, the growth of the dance chorus as a formal paradigm hinges on live performance, such as at huge music festivals that showcase DJ and pop music collaborations. Therefore, we must consider the issue of embodiment as related to the purpose of the dance chorus. Consider this excerpt from Don't Leave Me Alone by David Guetta featuring Anne-Marie, performed live at the Isle of Wight Festival. As you listen, notice how Anne-Marie preps the audience to sing during the chorus and to move during the dance chorus.
Here with you every day's a Saturday, but every Sunday you got me praying. Sing, don't
At the chorus, Anne-Marie instructs the crowd to sing, embracing the memorable melodic and textual aspects of the song, and following the narrative launched in the verse. As the texture and volume grow, Anne-Marie preps the audience with, "Come on!" and screams the count-off to the dance chorus. The crowd jumps and participates with their bodies when it begins. She participates in the dancing, pausing only to sing the motivic ahs and alone, which punctuate the new timbres of the dance chorus's unique countermelody. The collaborative efforts between EDM DJs, producers, and pop artists have necessitated new terminology that more accurately describes not only the significance, but also the function of each section within a song form, acknowledging how these genres interact. As new music is produced, further avenues for research about the dance chorus and its value as an analytical tool will grow and change, and today we have just scratched the surface of some of the developments in recent Top 40 music.